a little tardy today. Your boy had some stuff going on. Better late than never, better never late. But for those of you that are tuning in, if you're a business owner, coach, consultant, entrepreneur looking to either use webinars or you're already using webinars and you want to get them to a point of making six figures in your business, then you want to park right here today. This is the conversation you want to lean into and maybe share with a friend if you're not stingy. And so, as usual, I got my guy Praise here who has come with some questions of his own, but to your benefit. And I'm going to help coach him through building out his six figure webinar. And as a result of it, if you listen closely and implement, guess who can too? So, Praise, what's up, bro? Welcome to the party. I appreciate you being flexible today. I know my schedule is a little bit all over the place.
Man, I appreciate you for having me, man. You know me, I'll make whatever time to have these conversations. So, I threw everything out the window today. I told him until I talk to B, I'm not doing that. So I'm grateful to be here, my man, for sure.
Oh, yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. You ready to get into it?
Let's get right into it, man.
Yes, sir. So, creating this 3-day webinar for aspiring entrepreneurs who want to transition into full time, and obviously build it the right way. So, I have a 3-day framework that I was looking at, but I was going to ask, should I worry about how you said the last time? Should I worry about the steps in the transformation before I have the name, or should I come up with the name first and then the steps? Because I remember the last time for the offer, you were like, you'll get the name once you have the steps for it. So is that the same thing for this, or?
So, the first thing is this, okay? Why are you doing a 3-day webinar?
Doing a 3-day webinar because I don't want to just bore them for information, and I don't think thinking from aspiring entrepreneurs from their shoes. I'm like I want to get to it immediately, right? So I remember watching a video on 5 things to avoid, and you like they want the easy button. So I was like, giving it 3 days is like, okay, like what is he gonna say in this 3 days? It's not long enough and it's not short enough. So I feel like it's like right in the middle. I don't really believe these aspiring entrepreneurs know how to sit for like a 5-day webinar. You know what I'm saying? So I was like 3 days I feel like is perfect, talk about the limiting beliefs, talk a little bit more about the building on the rock and the vision identity and the blueprint for business, and then close it out with faith-led action with fear. So I was like, I think 3 days is like a perfect day for aspiring entrepreneurs who don't really know a lot. I don't want to overwhelm them with 5 days of information. I think 3 days will be perfect for them.
Got it. So, just to make sure I'm clear, right? The intent, what is the intent of the webinar? Because it sounds like you're if I'm understanding, the framework that you just described could be that of a 5-day challenge. You're
Mm.
saying rather than do a 5-day challenge, you rather do a 3-day challenge. But the language of webinar, I just want to make sure we clear about, is it a webinar? Is it a challenge? I just want to make sure I'm clear before I give you direction.
Yeah, if it sounds like I want it to be a webinar because that was the advice that y'all gave me. So if there's anything I got to
Okay.
change, I'll change it. But I want it to be most
Okay.
definitely a webinar. So.
Okay, cool. And on this webinar, you plan to sell what?
My offer for, and I had a name for it. I was going to either say conformity to confidence or clockwork to confidence, one of those things. But I wanted to sell that offer at the present that offer at the end of the webinar.
Okay. And how much is this offer going to be?
997.
Okay, so you want to sell a 997 course on your webinar. So my recommendation would be just do a 1-day webinar,
Mm,
hour and a half, 2 hours. You know, to your point, right? I agree with you. Like getting the attention and keeping the attention of an aspiring entrepreneur, it's a challenge, right? So
yeah.
I think your better approach would be just to do a 1-day webinar, free webinar. You take them through 45-minute, hour-long presentation, and then you go into the offer. You spend some time to sit in the cell to talk to them about whatever their objections or thoughts or concerns may be. And yeah, I mean, you could run that webinar once a week and sell that course every week. And then eventually, when you feel confident about the flow of it, then you could turn it into an evergreen situation and have it on autopilot.
Mm, okay. And should I? So for that right there, having a 1-day webinar. Um, because when I was looking at, thinking about doing 3 days, it was first I was gonna attack their limiting beliefs. So like, I'm too young, I'm not qualified, playing it safe is too hard, right? So I was gonna attack their limiting beliefs first, and then after that, I was gonna talk about how the difference between hustle culture before God-led entrepreneurship. I was going to talk about the difference between that, and then to end it off, I was just going to talk about the role of obedience and not perfection. Because a lot of people want to have a perfect business, but they're not even obeying God to start it. So should I, you know, shorten that to being just a 1 day webinar, or how should I go about that framework in constructing that?
So the funny thing is, the webinar is designed to kill limiting beliefs, to kill
Yeah.
objections, to reestablish new belief systems, and to talk about the things that are most normal in the culture that are killing their opportunities. So everything you just described is exactly what you would do in a webinar. The difference is that you'll be compressing time and doing that in a matter of 3 to 7 minutes per explanation, right?
Mm,
So if you want, I could just give you and everybody that's watching like the flow of what the webinar should look like.
yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So obviously inside of our coaching program, we got the parable presentation method, right? Where we give you our actual format. Okay. But as a general consensus, if you use this flow, it's going to convert better than whatever you're using right now today, right? For those of y'all that's out there that's already doing webinars, if you use this flow, it's going to convert better than what you're doing today. So the first thing you want to do is, unlike most people, when they tell their story from the opening, don't nobody care about that yet. Okay, it's not that they don't care, period, but they definitely don't care yet. So you got to quickly tune into the station of what's in it for me, WIFM. So you want to, after you acknowledge them from coming into the room, hey, let me know where you're tuning in from. That's important because you want to see in the chat where people are tuning in from. It's important to know where your people are coming from, where your leads are coming from. As you do this more consistent, you will start to find patterns within different regions that maybe your leads are coming from. So that's important to ask that question.
Yeah.
You greet them, and then you immediately enroll them into the webinar. So you ask them a question of, so how many of you, right, depending on what your offer is, so how many of you are here because you want to build out a 6 to 7 figure e-commerce business?
Mm,
Okay, great. Once I show you how to do that over this next hour, hour and a half, who's going to take immediate action? Let me know in the chat, right? So you getting them to recommit as to why they're even there. Because they
mm,
signed up for it some time ago, and even when signing up for it, they still not abundantly clear about why they're there, other than the fact that they're looking for some new information. So you have to establish it and why they're there, right? Boom, right off the rip. Okay. After that, then you want to go into incentivizing them for staying. So for all of you that wait until the end, I'm gonna give you XYZ thing, right? So it could be something that is of use to them, whether it be an ebook, a template, a download of sorts that can help them progress whether they buy your offer or not. Okay. They're investing their time with you, although it's not monetary, it's a cost to it. You want to incentivize them for investing that time and being there. And by the way, in order to make your offer, then you need retention, right? Because you're gonna do that toward the end. After you do that, then you want to get into who does work for, who does not work for. Because now you want to start to that's a um it's somewhat of an identification question, right?
mm,
Who does this work for? Who does this not work for? You want them to identify themselves as somebody that this worked for, which is why they should be in this room. Now, by the way, when you make the list of who does work for and who does not work for, it's going to be glaring. It's going to be pretty glaring to everybody that's in that webinar that it worked for them. Okay, 9 to 5ers, retiree. You gonna name almost every segment of the ideal avatar that this worked for. To where what you're doing now is you're already, watch this, you already canceling out a limiting belief that can this work for me
mm.
by just showing a slide of who does work for, who does don't work for, right? So who does don't work for would be people that procrastinate, people that are perfectionists, people that overthink, people that don't take action. That's who this don't work for. So that's synonymous with any business. If you don't do those things, and if you are that individual, then it ain't gonna work for you.
Yeah.
So what is that? So what is that telling them? They need to take on a new belief system. They need to adopt some new habits. Many people are not gonna leave because they saw that. They're gonna start in their mind to adjust by saying, "Yeah, you know what? I can't be that. I can't keep doing that, right? Because this ain't gonna work for me." Then you want to go into um, now it's time to talk more about your hero story. Like, who are you? Well, like, not going backwards. Start at your hero story, not your zero story. Establish why you are the expert. You're the person. You're the authority that they need to be listening to. If you got, you know, um, publications, right? I've been featured on Yahoo Magazine. I've been on this podcast. I've been there. I've been here. I've been there. So it's your hero story. And then after your hero story, then you need to let them know that I got it out the mud. I didn't start here. This is where I got to. So then you go from your hero story to your zero story.
Mm.
It wasn't always like this. This is where I started. Because you got to be able to allow them to see themselves in your story, regardless of what their unique starting point is. That you came from a place that was undesirable. You had to overcome and triumph in order to get there. Now, after you do that, now you go into the topics that are most common in culture. So like when I did a real estate webinar, one of the things that was common was people thought buying cheap houses was a good idea. They're like, well, if I got limited capital, I'm gonna buy cheap houses. Well, I taught people how to raise money and use other people's money to do the deals. So as a result of that, then I had to quiet that misconception. So I had a sticky statement. It said cheap houses are expensive,
Mm.
right? Because they
Yeah.
look cheap on the front end, but they cost you so much more on the back end of money you already didn't have, which is why you bought the cheap thing to begin with. But that's not the right fundamental. The fundamental is if you learn this business the right way, there are people out there that has the thing that you missing called capital that will partner with you to get the deal done. As opposed to you running out of money and they going into receivership anyway if you bought it from some type of land bank or municipality or whatever. So then you start to kill all those, you quiet those misconceptions with pre-frames, right? So you go
Yeah.
through a couple of those. Whatever those hot ones are in your area, you go through a couple of those. Then after that, you pivot into whatever the theme of the webinar was. Top 5 mistakes people are making when trying to do XYZ. Top 3 mistakes people are making when they're doing. So then you get into the mistakes, right? For every mistake that you, um, for every mistake that you call out, you should have some form of a testimonial of yourself or one of your students that fixes that problem. The solution should be an achievement. So it's a way of doing testimonials without doing testimonials. If you got video, even better, with somebody explaining how they overcame XYZ, right? So then you get through your 3 or your 5 mistakes, and then now it's like to start to ask the more limiting belief questions. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
who now believes that they can actually do this? Who now? So now it's time to empower them, right, through conversation. And then you ask them, look, if there was a way for you to actually be like XYZ and change your life, would you do it? Let me know in the chat. Like, would you do it? Okay, cool. Would it be okay? Always ask permission before you make an offer. Would it be okay if I showed you how you could do that? Right? And then you go into your offer, you show them the value, you give them the price, and then after that you do a repitch. You let them know, hey, look, you got 2 options. One, you could do nothing, go back to whatever you was doing, which obviously was already painful, which is why you're here today. Or two, you can make this small investment in yourself that can make the biggest impact in your life that you ever had. Some of y'all already have. Congratulations to those that already taken action. But for those of y'all that's sitting on the fence, you got to ask yourself: you go back to that life, are you okay with that being your reality for the next 20 years? Right? And you
Mm.
go into a repeat. So you still them last little limiting beliefs. You shattering them. You killing them. You facing them with the reality of if you don't do this, what's going to happen as a result. And then I mean, the thing could be going off because people will be buying is what happens as a result of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's a webinar. So everything that you talked about, all of those elements are in the webinar. You just compressing it to do it instead of over 3 days, every 3 5 minutes as you talking. You doing that all throughout the webinar.
Mm, got you. Yeah, that's strong, bro. Because I was one thing that you
ChatGPT
said.
ain't gonna give you that. I promise you.
Yeah,
For those that's watching, yeah, I'm just gonna ChatGPT it. Okay, you keep ChatGPT in it. You want to. If you want to make 6 figures, 7 figures from a webinar, you probably want to write this down. What I just said.
man, and that just helped me a lot because not over teaching, right? I think it's so easy to over teach. So you being able to just help me compress that, it's paramount because as I'm typing, I'm like, man, like it's easy to just run through bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. And by that, however many bullet points you got, by the middle of that, they're like, all right, bro, like what you gonna give us? So I appreciate you for even breaking that down. I'm gonna go back, literally rewatch this, create that 1 day webinar. And I'm grateful that you said 1 day because I was in my head like, what if I just did it like 1 day? But I wasn't thinking about it because I'm like, 3 days, I could keep them there longer. But that I feel like even if I was keeping them there longer, it'll just give them more time to back out. You know what I'm saying? It'll give them more time to be like, it's day 2. He hasn't really told me what I got to do yet. So, like, I'm not going to show up no more instead of just giving it to them in 1 day. So, I appreciate that. Like, I 100% do.
For sure.
Now, quick question about the name of the webinar. When you said something, you were like top 3 mistakes. Or I was going to say something around like the lines of like top 3 mistakes or obstacles that are stopping like aspiring entrepreneurs to transition to full time. Like, should it be something along those lines? Because of my niche of how I'm coaching.
Yeah, I mean, yes. And as a general consensus for even those that don't have the specifics of your offer, the idea behind like titling a free webinar is if it's going out to cold traffic, which means that maybe you run an advertisement, people don't know you yet, right? If it's organic, it could be a little bit of a warmer audience, but for when you're going out to cold traffic, for people that don't know you yet, people will trust that you will lead them away from pain as opposed to lead them into pleasure. So if you were walking down the street and you told somebody that was standing there with a phone and you kind of like in shambles, you like, man, I give you $5,000. I just need to use your phone really quick. The likelihood of them believing that is slim to none. They be like, get away from me, you weirdo. Like, I'm not giving you my phone. But if you saw somebody stretched out on the curb as you walking down the street, looking as if they having a stroke, and you said, give me your phone, or a heart attack or whatever, you said, give me your phone, I'm about to call, they would open that thing up with their face, hand it to you, they didn't dial 911 for you, because people would trust that you will lead them away from pain rather than believe that you will lead them into pleasure when they don't know you yet.
Mm,
So that the reason why you want to have your webinar title something synonymous with um, mistakes or obstacles or pain, because people more likely to tune into you regardless of you because we're selfish by nature. So selfishly, I want to come figure out how to not have the pain of doing the thing that I want to do.
yeah,
As opposed to praise saying, I'm gonna show you how to make $1 million as soon as I fix your confidence. Be like, get out of here, man. So with 5 other people down the street standing on Lamborghinis. You see what I'm saying? So the
yeah.
psychology behind that, when you talking to a stranger, is they're more susceptible to leave that you will lead them away from pain as opposed to into pleasure.
That's good. That's good. Okay, and I'm grateful for that, man, because like I said, this just and one thing that you said you were talking about. I remember in the purpose of profits, the amount of time that you worked on something and how much it was creating revenue for you. You were like, man, I only did half hour work or an hour and a half work, and this thing obviously did X, Y, and Z. And that's what I was trying to aim towards, working more efficiently because I didn't want to just do this 3 hour, 4 or 5 hour work just for me to speak for 45 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like I was like, it just wasn't adding up. So, and I didn't want to just sit here and run my mouth and be like, hey, and I remember the video I was watching of you last night and you were like, you think you're giving them the sauce whole time. They want the easy button. And I'm grateful that you're helping me do this, man, because man, it's freeing me up. I was sitting there like first day, I'm like, is this good enough for the first day? Is this good enough for the second day? But just putting that into 1 day, Man, I can do that, and I'm gonna make
Yeah,
sure I run those.
you probably need 30 to 40 slides. You know, maybe 30 to 50 initially. As you do the presentation more, you'll start to condense it to where you won't need as many words. So like every slide will be a picture or a phrase, and that phrase
Mm,
will evoke a 5 to 7 minute conversation. So you'll end up with less slides as you do it more often.
Okay, so now I'm grateful you brought up the slides because now that's the besides compressing it into one day. So can you give me an example of what should be on this, like you said, a phrase or like a picture? And I know a few things that I will put on slides, but the amount of slides that you just said, I'm kind of like, how, like, what would I be putting on those slides to keep them engaged? I know I'm not going to put a bunch of words, but I'm like, for aspiring entrepreneurs, I'm like, there's a few things obviously I'd put like why you should obviously do the transition, what's holding you back. Um, I would, talk about a little more things like trust, all these little things, but the amount of slides, I don't know what else I should be putting on there. So could you just give me some insight on other things I should be putting on the slides?
The big idea that you're trying to make, the point
Mm,
that you're making every single time. So who is this work for? Who is this not work for? Right? Here's the authority pose, right? The picture of you, the platforms that you may have been on, podcasts and otherwise, right? Um, each mistake will have its own slide
mm,
because that's the big idea. That's the point that you're making,
mm,
right? And then if you have the supporting testimonials or wins from yourself, those each one of those are their own slides. So you just every slide is a new point. You know what I mean? Just think of it that way.
yeah.
Every slide is introducing the big idea, whatever that big idea is.
Mm, okay, got you. I could definitely do
Because
that.
it's a rudder. You need to be changing because you're the one on video, they're attending in the background. That you need things to continuously change so they don't get bored with just the talking head, right?
Mm,
So you got this thing that's moving, so it's reigniting their attention every single time you change a slide.
mm, that's so good. Okay. I could definitely do that. I could definitely do that. So, and is it okay for us to pivot now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So now for the
Also, if
offer.
anybody watching, if y'all got questions, put them in the chat. Don't be shy. We'll get to them.
Yeah.
Even if y'all watching the recording, put them in the chat. We'll get to them next week.
Yeah. That was great, man. And I'm gonna go back and rewatch this and make sure I lock in, especially that framework specifically. Because remember, I was telling you, I tried to, like you said, don't chat GPT it. I was trying to chat GPT a little bit, and it was like it was starting with me, but I was like, nobody's coming here to hear about me. Like you said, they don't care yet, So I didn't want to be like, hey, I'm X, Y, and Z, or hero to zero story, or zero to hero story. I didn't want to do that. So I'm grateful.
90% of people webinars fail because they start out talking about them. Nobody care about you.
Mm,
They only care what you got for them. And until you give them that up front, they out of there. You got to give them that up front. Everybody wants to know what's in it for me. WIFM. And you start off talking about you and how you grew up and you had 7 siblings and y'all slept on bunk, but nobody care about that. You know what I'm saying? It really don't matter.
yeah.
Like really, you shouldn't care about that. You know what I mean? Let alone these strangers who coming to find out like what is this big promise you gonna do to help fix my life?
Yeah, 100%. And now pivoting for the names of the author. I had a few that I wrote down, and I just wanted to run them by you because I didn't want to just choose one and run with it. And you were like, make sure it has this to that. How you like purpose to profits, right? So I have a few. So the first one that I did, it was conformity to confidence. Only reason I like that is because you playing by the rules right now, playing it safe. You trying to make sure you don't step on nobody's toes. That you staying at your job, making sure it's stable. It's like, yo, you playing by the rules right now. You need the confidence to break out of all of those rules, like all those rules that you playing by. And there's more obviously that I'm gonna make sure I have and study to that and have a better tagline and all that good stuff. But I was just like the conformity to confidence. I like that just because a lot of people conforming and playing by the rules, and we not doing that no more. Like for example, for me, I was conforming.
How many people know what conformity means?
You're right, and that's why I didn't want to. I knew you was gonna say that.
Yeah. So here's the challenge for everybody, right? most of us, and especially us, black people, spend all our lives try to be as intellectual, speak English as well as we possibly can, right? So that we can coexist in this world. To then only find out when you become an entrepreneur, it's like you have to think like a genius and speak like a third grader,
Mm,
right? So it's just the opposite. In corporate America and all of that, it's like, you need to be as loquacious and possible and articulate as possible and have this vernacular that's off the charts and this extensive vocabulary. And then you become an entrepreneur, and it's like, no, in your marketing, if you ain't abundantly clear with the largest demographic of people, then nobody's clicking. If they got to
yeah,
go get the dictionary to figure out what you're talking about, they ain't clicking.
yeah,
So it's a
yeah,
challenge, right? I have to challenge myself still. This is decades that I gotta go backward on. So when I hear that conformity to confidence, I'm just like, it's great, but it ain't great to sell. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So
one hundred
what
percent.
other options do you have?
The other one I was doing is clockwork to confidence. Just been there doing clockwork, and I know everybody know what clockwork mean.
They do, but it still make me think though. Like
Mm,
clockwork to confidence. I don't if I don't know what the offer is, I don't know the synergy between the two.
okay, okay, yeah, because the the other ones are simpler too. Like for example, this was super simple, and it was like I don't know if people are going to admit they're confused, but I was going to do confusion and confidence. Like right now, you
Now we
confused
getting
on,
closer now.
yeah, right. So I'm like you
Because
confused about,
even if they don't understand, if they know confidence is the end result and they don't know what you insinuating that they're confused about, that adds curiosity,
yeah,
right? It's got to create curiosity.
yeah.
So from confused to confidence, what's another one? I got one, but I'm just listening to yours first.
Okay, and the last one, well, last the second one, because I had a few others, but I threw them out because it, it was too intellectual. I was like, bro, I'm not trying to sit here and talk y'all head off like I'm Shakespeare or anything like that. And then the last one will just be control the confidence. Like right now, you're trying to control everything you have, and mind you, being an entrepreneur, you can't control everything that happens, right? So at work, you can control the hours, you can control the income, you can control what shifts you pick up. But when you switch over to this confidence thing, I'm like, a lot of things you can't control it when you step into this entrepreneurial world. Like you just, got to leave the increase up to God. But yeah, those was I was really debating between the confusion, the confidence, or the control, the confidence. I like confused just because, like you said, they don't know what they're confused about, and if
Yeah.
confidence is the payoff. So
I think confused to confidence is strong. The other one that I thought about was from crippled to confidence.
mm,
So from crippled to confidence, from confused to confidence would be my top two.
okay. I could definitely. Okay, that's good. Crippled confidence. That's you make this sound so easy, bro.
Well, I think of I get a word picture of what
Yeah,
people are really experiencing,
yeah,
and many of them they're crippled. They feel crippled, and and the crippling is emotionally, is spiritually, is physically. They're crippled in all of these different facets, right?
yeah.
So I like confused. I like crippled to confidence.
Okay, yeah. I really, and obviously not just because you said it, but I think crippled speaks more to also it ties into like now it causes them to be like, so now what am I crippled about, right? Causes also that curiosity more because when you hear the word cripple, you're not physically crippled, but like you said, something is crippled. So I really like that. So between that or confused, I'm gonna go back and forth and just really see which one sticks. And now I'm gonna tell you about
And by the way, marketing is a test at best. So I would shoot two different pieces of content, spread them out a couple days apart, and use the different language in each one of those and see which one performed better.
mm, okay, I could do that 100%. 100%. Even with like you said about last week, you were telling me about to do those 20 videos. I was doing seeing which one work because I was talking about one of the pillars that I'm doing, and I'm seeing the outreach on this one on one of the pillars so I could dive deeper on. So it really is working. So if anybody's asking, like, yo, is this working? Like, what is he telling you? Does it like it is working like 1000%. Because people telling me like, yo, I did one where it was like your story is your superpower, right? So nobody else has the type of story you have. Everybody in the Bible got their own unique story. So do you. I was like, you gotta tell somebody about your breakthrough so they can break through, right? And I was emphasizing that point, and somebody was like, my story's weird. You know, I don't really think my story gonna do anything. I'm like, my story's weird. So I'm like, that's not an excuse. And then something I was gonna add into the webinar, I was gonna talk about your duality, you know, the duality piece that you brought up. And it was grateful because I was grateful that I heard that, because I was like, you got this excuse that you too young, you inexperienced, it's too risky, yeah, you don't got enough money. I'm like, and for all those excuses, there's a duality. So that means there is an answer, right? So I was gonna go right into that to attack their limiting beliefs in the webinar as well, because I wanted to throw that duality standpoint in there. I think, you know, also if I'm, you know, obviously attacking their limiting beliefs, I got to make sure I give them the duality side of that, to be like, you guys are believing these limiting beliefs, but there's an answer to everything, you know, and then tie that into my hero story and then my zero story, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to just piggyback on that a little more. But now for the stages, I changed all the stage names. So the first that is Define Yourself framework, like you gave me last week. So that's stage 1. Define Yourself framework for understanding and believing that you one of one. That'll be the main point in that stage. The second stage is Built Not Borrowed system. Because you know, you were telling me to pick out those words, and I was making sure that, you know, it actually made sense to what I was lining it with. The third stage is Uprooting Counter Confidence method. And then the last stage is the Confidence Blueprint.
I like it. The last one before that was Uprooting Counterfeit Confidence.
Yeah, Counterfeit Confidence method.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, that's
it's
strong.
good.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's strong.
yeah. Just wanted to make sure, because I didn't want to have the book titles again, because
Yeah.
me, I'm trying to sound like you when you just speak it. I'm like, all right, let me see how crafty I could get. But now I'm like you said, I gotta talk like a third grader. And now, so I kind of wanted to pivot a little bit and talk about the marketing aspect, and I'll talk about, you know, the team stuff and all that extra stuff later. But for the marketing aspect, I was even, you know, having a little, I wouldn't even say it wasn't doubt or worry. It was just a question, like, where are these people gonna come from? You know, like, if I'm being honest, being vulnerable, I'm like, I was talking to God. I'm like, Lord, like, I'm marketing, doing the videos, and I remember in your in the B&B pillar, you were talking about, you were like, it's gonna be discouraging when you have a new message. It's not. Some days you're gonna get the outreach. Some days you're not gonna get the outreach. So I was gonna ask you, what are more effective ways to market, and to get this out there? Because even with, you know, like this free webinar, I like, and I'm not, I don't believe it's going to happen because my faith is big, but to make sure there's people in the room. And then on top of that, I'm actually like attracting clients. I want to make sure I have a steady framework of how to do that, because I was kind of like, I don't like the my marketing um knowledge on that. I don't really like it. So I was like, I wanted to ask, like, what are better ways to market so I can get more clients, so I can get more leads. So yeah, I wanted to just ask for more insight about that.
Yeah. So the first thing is the best way to market is consistent. Consistent marketing, right? Like whatever tickle your fancy, whether that be multiple times a day, 5 days a week, one time a day, 6 days a week, one time a day, 7 days. Like it gotta be consistent marketing. You when people go to tune in to your channel, you something better be there. Otherwise, they're gonna go find another channel. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing is just having a rhythm to it in terms of inspiration, motivation, education, and then sell a couple times a week. So as you give, it's the jab, 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 hook rule, right? So as you giving all this game for free, then you give them an opportunity to participate in something that's paid, or to your free webinar, or like send me a DM for this template. So the one thing is the goal of social media is to keep people on the platform. The goal for us as business owners is to get them off the platform.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you got some type of lead magnet, you know, the confidence playbook, right? You create some type of one pager, send me a DM if you want a copy. When they send you the DM, that thing is actually on its own funnel to where they got to opt in, put in their information, and then they get the thing. Now you got the information. So that's what I mean by social media goal is to keep them on the platform. Your goal is to get them off. So I don't mean physically get them off. I'm talking about you getting their information so now you can communicate with them off the platform
Mm,
through email, through text. You can keep them informed of what you got going on. You can send, you can market to them out. So even if Instagram, whatever platform, YouTube, if it all went away, you have a way to still communicate with your ideal avatar. You still got leads. You still got a business. Okay. So it's having a strategy of always getting leads, always being able to make offers for potential sales.
mm,
So we always recommend starting off organic and get your stuff going well organically, and then start looking at doing some paid traffic. Also, look at doing affiliates. So finding people that have your similar avatar that don't have your same offer and leverage their audience. Ask them to do an Instagram live together, a YouTube live together. Um, you can ask them, "Hey, I got an offer coming up. Would you be open to emailing your list? I split the profit with you 50-50, depending on what tickets that we sell." Going on somebody else's podcast to get your message out, right? So the power of collaboration is huge today, and everybody's open minded to that for the most part. You know, um, you have a lot of big channels on YouTube. You got a lot of big podcasts where these people don't have their own offers, so they only looking for sponsorship deals and YouTube revenue, right? So if you can go to them and say, look, I just want to come on your channel and collaborate, you know, for every 9.97 I sell, I give you 30%, I give you 50%, I give you 20%, whatever that profit share is for the leads that come specifically from that avenue. So in short, the goal is to be omnipresent. The goal is to not double down on just one platform. And the goal is to be consistently putting stuff out so that your audience can count on
it's good. It's good. I appreciate that, B. 100%.
you. Yeah.
Because yeah, I was just yeah, I like I said, I just needed more knowledge on that because I didn't want to just be Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I was like, and I took the advice on what you said about reaching out and using Facebook groups and stuff like that. So I've been in there, just shooting out a little couple messages, a couple posts like, hey, this is I do X, Y, and Z. Anybody trying to X, Y, and Z and collaborate and whatnot. So I just was trying to make sure I had a good framework of that because I didn't want to just sit there, post a video on Instagram and TikTok. It does what it does. And like you said for the confidence playbook, um, for a template. So should I start leaning that direction more so I can get them, like you said, off of social media? So should I create like a small little template, like a 1 or 2 page template to start, sending out and be like, hey, DM me confidence and I'll send you this template or comment confidence and I'll DM you, so I can start leaning that route more.
100%.
Okay,
100%. What's up, Ryan? 100%. Because here's why. We're in a trust recession, right?
that's
So,
good.
in order to mitigate against the trust recession, then you need to give people a reason to trust you. Well, how do you get people to trust you? One of my mentors says the best way to prove to people you can help them is to help them. So, whatever this template is, gone are the days where you create lead magnets that mean nothing and you just got people opting in. If you're going to get them to give you their information, then you need to get them something of value to where they can walk away and say, I got a win from this. We just had a conversation internally as a team, even with our email marketing. I'm like, while we give a lot of value, we're about to take it up another notch.
Mm,
Like we're people are going to be able to get our emails and say, man, I went and followed those 3 steps in that email, and I got a client. I went and followed those 3 steps. Like we about to just give it away, even in the emails. For those that's actually willing to open them up and use them, we about to just give it away.
Pat,
So
I
help
could that.
people get tangible wins up front, and you ain't gonna have no problem on the back end.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely do that because I was thinking about, I have this step, this one stage of how to breaking the cycle of old patterns, right? And I was gonna, put that in my confidence playbook to end off, like putting those 4 steps in there. See, like if you do these 4 steps, you can break out of these old patterns and push into the entrepreneurship life that God wants you to live, or to be a more successful entrepreneur just in general. So I wanted to just throw that in there with like maybe like 1 or 2 more things, but I already have these 4 steps. And I was like, yo, if I put this in a template and I'm like, do this to get X, Y, and Z result, I'm like, yo, this is gonna change the game because I wanted to start um doing more, but not doing more as in like talking more or elaborating more, but doing more as in, like you said, being omnipresent, right? I was wondering how I can be everywhere and not be everywhere at the same time. If it's the email that's like, yo, this was from Praise, and then now it's the video, like, yo, this was from Praise. Like, I just wanted to start, getting myself out there more. So I appreciate that. Um, Now I kind of want to pivot to ask you a couple questions about the team that I've been, through God's grace, been able to have.
Mm-hmm.
To give you a little more context about them, they all attend my church. So the team attends my church. One of them is my guy. He is a social media manager, so he helps me with the recording, helps me with the editing, and we're about to. I'm also about to once again copy your framework, how you have the microphone for your podcast and stuff. I'm about to buy that same microphone, get that, to set this YouTube channel up to do it the same way, and then however we'll start talking about content more once I get to that. But yeah, so I'm about to do that same thing. So he helps me with the YouTube, the content, the Instagram, the TikTok, and stuff like that. And then my other team member, she helps me with more so of kind of the role that Taylor was playing in the Purpose to Profit. So, the host, she's like, hey guys, X, Y, and Z does that. So I was going to ask you, just from uh, the next step, because I told them, I was like, hey, like, first off, we're doing great right now. Organic reach is beautiful. I love the way we headed. We're being way more consistent. Like, I'm posting once a day, every day, Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday right now. And I was telling them that we're doing good, but I was like, okay, so now we about to start taking it up a notch, right? So I was telling my social media manager, I was like, I need you to start coming up with the carousels, to where, to be like 3 steps to be a more successful entrepreneur, and slide, 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 right? So I was telling him to come up with that. And then for my other team member, I was telling her, your job right now is just to promote, like just promote, 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 right? So now I was going to ask you, what should be the next stage or the next step that I should be leading, my team into doing to generate more leads, to also be at better customer service? And I know we can't do immense things right now, but that will take us just 1% better. I just wanted to ask you, like, what next should I tell them to move into? Because I know she's just doing, one of them are just doing promotion, other one's just doing content right now, but I'm like, I want to take it to another level a little bit, just get a little more out of that. And they're just willing, like you said, like your video the other day, it's not even about the how. They're just like, okay, what we got to do, like, we willing to do whatever to help you advance the God's kingdom advancement with this. So they're like, what do we got to do? So they've been willing, but I just wanted to ask you, what next step should I be, leading them, and should I be aiming towards with my team, just so we can, promote this business better and get more clients to generate more leads, and at the end generate more sales as well.
Yeah, two things. So one, the guy who's doing the social media management right now, I would have him sending outbound messages to your ideal avatar,
Mm.
right? And then for all the people that followed you recently, have you sent them that same message I sent you?
No, I haven't.
So I mean, that's 100 and some people that raised their hand and said, I like something you do. You sent all of them that message. That may be your first handful of clients right there
Mm.
that you can book calls and get on one-on-one calls with. So the social media manager should be doing outbound DMs, taking care of inbound followers by sending them a DM, welcome them into the page, and taking them through an organic conversation to get them to take some type of action, whether it's, let me get you this template, book a call, sign up for the webinar, something. They followed you for a reason. So you need to find out what that reason is, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing that the lady could be doing is, as an admin in the interim, she can be doing cold reach out, so you can create like a one sheet um, of who is praised, right? With all the things, your mission, all the rest of it, and then have her shop you around to podcast platforms that has your audience for you to do potential guesting on.
Mm,
Right now, marketing is the most important thing in your business, right? It's really the most important thing in everybody's business, but especially in the position you in, that everybody has to be working on marketing because there is no business without it,
yeah.
right? So everybody got to be focused on getting leads, and then as you start getting leads, then we can start talking about once you got sales, then what needs to happen operationally and what that process needs to look like. But right now, everybody, all hands on deck should be marketing opportunities.
Mm, okay. And for like the people that have already followed me, um, that's should I, even though I haven't reached out yet, should I start now pushing that and start reaching out to them and sending them a DM? Should I start pushing
100%.
that like you said? Okay. I
100%.
just
Because
wanted to make sure.
some won't remember. That's why it's important that message. So if you got ManyChat, it'll go out like that, right? But
Mm,
forget automation right now. That message should happen within the first 24 hours of somebody following
mm,
you, right? Our process is within 24 hours because otherwise they'll forget why they followed you. Now, it don't matter. That don't mean that you still can't strum up a conversation if you're a conversationalist, but you want that to happen when they did it, so that it's not 4 weeks later and you're like, "Hey, thanks for the follow up. Why did you follow?" Like, well, I don't, you know.
yeah. Got you. Okay. Yeah, because I wanted to make sure that, I was taking um, actionable and progressive steps. Because right now, like I said, I was just telling them, like, let's promote, let's get a couple things out. But now I want to start leading towards posting, if not, like sometimes twice a day, post a video. And then I'm like, hey, 3 steps to X, Y, and Z, or the reason you having this outcome is because you're not doing this. So I wanted to get my name more out there. So yeah, I
Yeah,
just
and then
appreciate that.
now you got the offer. It's time to make the offer. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't be shy about that at all. It's about getting in front of all the people that you need to get in front of.
100%. 100%. And with the because you was talking about just with the marketing, I was gonna start kind of uh trying to host a few events actually down the road. So like I have a few people that I already know, and I was actually gonna try and host some just events to where it's me giving them a little bit of the game from the offer, and then at the end making that offer, or saying just book a call. I remember one of the things you did in your Purpose to Profits, knowing that everybody probably wasn't gonna people, were hesitant about your offer just because they don't know what real value is. So you were like, listen, if you just want help, book a call, right? And I kind of want to have a speaking event to where I'm teaching them one of the things and coaching them to one of the things that I have in my offer, and then just be like, listen, if you just need any help, or if you're willing to take these steps X, Y, and Z, just
Yeah.
book a call. So
So I'm glad. I'm glad. Hey, Ryan, let me know if the audio is any better. Um, so I'm glad you brought that up. Okay. So this a behind the scenes, Jim. It people weren't not taking the offer because they didn't see the value in the offer. People were not taking the offer because they were sticker shocked.
mm,
So in order to help people get over the essence of being sticker shocked, it was like just book a call. You know what I mean? If you need some help, just book a call. So to get their mind off of the fact of how much it costs.
mm,
You know what I mean? They were worried about the fact of how much it costs. It wasn't a function of they didn't see the value. They were just scared. People are intimidated by money. They're inferior to it, which they should never be because God told us to go subdue and have dominion over everything on earth. And so, money is a great slave. It's a horrible master. It's bad when it when it runs you as opposed to you running it. So you have
yeah,
to help people. It's overcoming the limiting belief all over again. You know what I'm saying? To help
yeah,
them to understand that the money is just the money.
got you, 100%. So with that being said, would it be wise to start hosting a couple events, a couple speaking events leading up to my 1 day webinar and the offer that I'm about to start presenting?
So here's the thing, bro. I don't know if I understand the question technically, but
Just
what I was
basically like, should I? Because um, I know, for example, like the marketing, right? He was like podcasts, a couple things like that. So there's this one guy I know, and he hosts events for just business people, people who are starting up their business, etc., and just networking events, right? And he has speakers at times at those events.
yeah.
And I was planning to do one with him, to where I was, speaking at one of his events, and then afterwards is just networking. So I was like, should I do one of those to, speak at one of his events to get my name more out there, or should I uh, just do the marketing the way you just told me to do it, just recently, just now?
Yeah. So is my mic higher, by the way?
I don't
Still
think it's
sound the
higher.
same?
Yeah, I think it's still it sound the same.
We'll figure it out next go round. But um, yes, everything is yes. You see what I'm saying? You want to
Yeah,
be omnipresent. If it ain't gonna cost you no money to go attend somebody else's event and speak in front of their audience, yes. The answer is yes. That's what I meant by I wouldn't overcomplicate it by how many of these I should do before these. It's like you need to be everywhere you can be.
okay, got you. I could definitely do that. One hundred
You,
percent.
you know what I'm saying? You need to be
Yeah,
everywhere you need to be.
yeah, 100%. So now my really really answered all the questions that I had about just my offer and the webinar, and where I wanted to lead my team into, and now the last thing that I wanted to ask you about. So for my offer, right, and you did this in your challenge, which was homework, right? So now my offer, I was gonna ask, I have obviously these four stages. I'm like, what should my homework be for? Like, should I make it the same? How you were like, uh, what was it? Like one of them was like create three prey frames, right? And tell me what you learned. Then the next one is, which one are you? Shark, dolphin, X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. So I was like, for that, should I do the same thing in cultivating that type of homework for
For
each
what?
offer, for each stage of my offer?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
When you make your offer, right?
Yeah.
That's their business.
Mm.
See, again, right? It's psychology behind why we do what we do, where we do it. So we were in a challenge. So the challenge is we know everybody is bargaining for time. We know everybody is got a ton of stuff going on, but it's called a challenge. So
Yeah.
you got assignments every single night to help you to progress to the next day, which is going to help you by the end of the challenge progress to the next step,
Yeah.
right? So in a challenge environment, you're doing homework because that's a part of the format of the challenge. In terms of once somebody becomes a client, they ain't got home they business is their homework. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not giving you no homework. Like I'm giving you the game. You go run the play to and better yourself, your business, and everything else, or your business don't work. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
is no more. It's no home. You a grown individual that paid to come in my program. Here's the work that you need to go do if you want to
Yeah.
make your business work.
Okay. Yeah. That's great, B. Yeah. You knocked everything out today.
Yeah.
Knocked everything out. Yeah, that's great, B. I really needed that. That's just clear, a lot of clarity. I think just doing this for the for the first time, I'm like, are you sure? Like do this, like
For sure.
double checking, but you cleared everything up, man. So I appreciate that, B. I'm got some work to do, and really just the marketing work because I got the offer, I got the steps. I'm gonna stick with the cripple to confidence. And just because I just like the word cripple really is the more of a gut punch. I feel like because
That's
confused is
why I
good,
liked it. I
but
felt like it was a kick in the kneecap. You know.
yeah, right. So I was like, that's more of that gut punch. So I'm gonna stick with that crippled confidence. And then yeah, create that 1 day webinar and make those slides that I got to do. But besides that, man, and you just help me with the team and the next step that we about to take. But besides that, I'm good, bro. You just answered everything that I needed.
Yeah.
So
And by the way, again, I would test out both angles from
yeah,
crippled to confidence, from confused to confidence.
okay,
I think both angles can work,
yeah,
but I would just create sub narratives under the talking point, meaning you've been crippled by imposter syndrome. You've been crippled
mm,
by you know,
Fear or
childhood trauma.
something.
They've
Yeah.
been crippled by fear. So
Yeah.
I would just riddle them with different ways in which they've been crippled. So instantly, after you get the pattern interrupter of the word crippled, then they get all of the subtopics as to how they've been crippled.
Yeah. Okay. Got you. And then actually, this is last question. So I was doing the marketing, like you said, and just trying to collaborate on the Facebook groups and stuff like that. And this one guy reached out. He was like, he wanted me to basically promote his book. It's a business book. It's called, like, I think, The Minds Behind Business. And basically, he was telling me that it's the internal work. Your internal work dictates your external work, and stuff of that nature. But he was like, I wanted to set something up with every book that you sell, you get revenue. But he's not in the UK though. I mean, he's not in the US though. I mean, like, he's in India, UK, Russia, I think, just overseas. So I wanted to bring that to you because I didn't want to just be like, oh yeah, let's do it. You know, partnership, collaboration. Like, I was like, I was gonna pray on it, which I did, and I was like, Lord, if you want this to be your will. But I wanted to ask you about that because he's not nowhere in the U.S. He just told me that I was gonna get, you know, obviously we was gonna collaborate in partnership, and I told him, like, I got to do a couple things before I even accept this. But I appreciate the offer. But he said my message that I'm trying to get out aligns with his, so I wanted to bring it to you before we get out of here and just ask you about that because he was trying to collaborate and have me sell his book. But I'm like, in the stage that I am right now, should I even be worried about doing that, or should I just stay focused on what I got going on? Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about that.
I mean, you got plenty right now. For me, based on the size of your audience and your email list right now, something just seemed off that they reached out to you to even do that. Right? They should be going to look for people that got hundreds of thousands. You know what I mean? So some
Yeah,
to me, you know, one of my favorite sayings is even distractions look like opportunities.
yeah,
Right? I just think it's a
yeah.
distraction. I would just focus on what you for you're gonna have enough to figure out. You know what I'm saying here soon. I would just focus on that for right now.
Okay, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good, B. I appreciate you, my man.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Well, as always, folks, leave your comments, leave your questions. Please like, subscribe if this fed you. Make sure that this getting pushed out in the algorithm. And yeah, let us know if it's something that y'all specifically want us to cover next week. Anything that you've been stuck on in your business trying to figure out, and we'd be happy to do it. All right. Praise. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you, B.
Yes, sir.